welcome back to another episode of the show. Today, my guest is Seixeiro, the co-host of Breakfast Television Toronto. So, my first question, Sid, is what made you take an interest in television, and what made you want to become a news anchor? Because obviously, you initially started out on Tim and Sid, and it wasn't until just recently that you made the switch over to BT.
Well, thanks for having me. First off, Wyatt, I wanted to do TV and sports specifically because I'm not really good at anything else. So if I wanted to stay close to sports when I was younger. I knew I couldn't play, but I wanted sports in my life. So I went into sports broadcasting, and I got lucky, and I got some opportunities, and it kind of worked out. So it was a dream to do that. It's a lot of fun. And To kind of move into more of a news thing, it was kind of I've been interested in news for a long time, and I was kind of looking at it from afar, and I got this incredible opportunity to work on BT, and it's been a challenge, and it's been great. It wasn't easy leaving Tim and Sid. We worked together a long time. We got a lot of friends on that show, and we had some success. Had a lot of success, actually. But this has been a whole new challenge, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun.
All right, I know you were talking a little bit about before we started about kind of what it's like behind the scenes at Breakfast Television. So, just what's it kind of like just being around on the set of BT, maybe even just during commercial breaks and stuff. I know sometimes on BT's social media you'll see behind the scenes clips of what you guys do during commercial breaks, but
We have a good time, Wyatt. We have a really good time. To do the kind of show that we do on Breakfast Television, and I haven't been doing it as long as everyone around me, but I think the best shows are when people are enjoying themselves on camera and off camera. When there's a vibe, when there's a feeling. So it really is it really is a family atmosphere with the viewer. It's a family atmosphere in the studio. It's a really unique show. And I guess when you work some of the hours we work, sometimes it's a good thing. It's a good thing to keep it light, have the energy up. It's positive. So yeah, we have a good time. We have a good time. Most of which you do see on social media.
yeah. So just when you made the jump from Tim and Sid to Breakfast Television, how hard of a decision was that, and then what made you want to go from Tim and Sid to Breakfast Television?
It wasn't as hard as people might think, just because this job doesn't come around a lot. This is it's a pretty big chair, as we say. So I knew when I was offered the position, I kind of had to say yes to it. The hardest part was telling people that I worked with for a long time, that I was kind of gonna move on. That was the toughest part. And then telling the audience, which was pretty tough. It was a lot tougher than I thought. So that was the part of it I wasn't completely prepared for, is how emotional I'd be about it. But in terms of, was it hard to say yes to this job? It wasn't that hard. This is a pretty unique opportunity for especially someone like me. I'm in sports. Nobody thinks I can do this, right? Like, I'm not at the top of anyone's list. It just kind of happened. And I was very lucky that it happened. So yeah, it wasn't that hard a decision, because this is the type of challenge that I like, because I don't think people would anticipate I could do it. So I like that challenge. I enjoy it.
I know you just joined BT back in March, but what have been some of kind of the highlight moments of being on BT so far? And then maybe outline some of the highlight moments when you were on Tim and Sid for that long period of time as well.
Oh, the highlights on Tim and Sid were a ton. You get to meet some legends in the business and in hockey and in baseball, and it was a thrill. There was too many highlights to mention, to be honest with you, on Tim and Sid. So far, just it's been interesting, because we're not Breakfast Television right now. We're not really doing the real version of Breakfast Television, because people aren't allowed to come into the studio. So I think right now the highlight has been to make the move, and I think the move's gone okay, and I've been sleeping okay, which is good. That was my biggest fear, was sleep, was losing the sleep. but I'm hanging in there. I've adjusted my schedule pretty well. So the highlight has to me was just getting on a set and becoming a part of the show and starting that process. Because it was kind of a complicated thing, right? Like I was on another show. Would I be allowed to do this new show? You know, things happen. You're not sure how it's going to play. So just the fact that I got on the desk day one with Dina and Devo and Mel and Frank, Steph, and everybody, it was that to me that was the highlight. Was day one. The fact that it happened, it was real. Couldn't take it away from me. It was, the ink was dry on the contract. It was good. So that was a happy day. That was a happy day. But I anticipate a lot of happy days to come because there's a lot of ideas being kicked around once normal returns, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun.
All right, so to actually kind of jump into some of the current issues that everyone's talking about, including on BT too. So the next Ontario election is now under a year away as of June 2nd. But based on the current polling numbers, do you think it's likely that Doug Ford can win again, and do you think it's likely that he can maintain his majority government?
I don't think he can maintain the majority. I think he can win again. I think sometimes the electorate has shorter memories than people think. And between now and next June the 2nd, or I mean, it could be earlier than that. Who knows? A lot could happen. A week, as they say, is a long time in politics. And look, when we come out of this, there's going to be a lot of politicians, not just in Ontario, but across the country, who are going to be saying, well, I got us here. Yay me. Let's go to the polls. I think the prime minister will probably do that later this fall. And then we'll see which premiers kind of escape some of the bad press that has happened. I would not be surprised at all if Doug Ford is reelected. Majority, I don't think it's a majority, but because I think that climate has changed. But in terms of him being in the chair, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't.
I think a lot of people are kind of looking at it from a mindset of Justin Trudeau got reelected in 2019, and then he didn't really serve much of a second term until COVID hit. But do you think Justin Trudeau will win again? Do you think he'll be able to go back to his majority, or do you think he'll stay minority, or do you think Aaron O'Toole has a chance?
No, I think he is in a rather strong position. The more it's funny, like I think the one thing about Justin Trudeau that's become apparent is he's very good at sidestepping the bad stuff. It doesn't really stick to him. That's a skill. That's not a lot of politicians can do that, and especially a politician as young as our prime minister. He's very good at focusing on here's what we did. The reality is, look, vaccine rollout was a disaster. Borders were a disaster, but families were taken care of. Small businesses were taken care of to a certain extent. Not all of them made it, unfortunately, but most of them were. He threw a lot of money at this problem, and a lot of people were very appreciative of it. That alone is an argument you can bring to any election cycle, and people will hear it and they'll understand it because there is evidence of that in a lot of people's bank accounts across the country. Was CERB perfect? No, but find me a government program that's perfect. Find me a government program that doesn't have holes in it. You can't do it. So I think from that aspect, he's got a really strong case, and he's probably going to get a majority later. The other thing is, I like Aaron O'Toole is a smart guy, and he's an Ontario conservative. He's one of the few Ontario conservatives to lead the party federally. And he knows if they can't break into Southern Ontario, they're done. They can't just win out West anymore. That's not how it's happened. My concern with the Conservatives is when they had their policy convention not that long ago, they still wouldn't say climate change is real. That's a party stance. And I saw a poll a while back that said most voters under 30 years of age, their number one issue, aside from trying to buy a home, is the environment and climate change. And they are very interested in climate change. And the prime minister can just step up to any debate, and he will, and say, by the way, his party won't even say climate change is real. That's a majority. That alone to me is a majority. Add in the financial stimulus that he did put in during the pandemic, which you can see every penny of. I don't know. He's. I only see this going one way. The only question is when. Like, hopefully, there's not another thing between now and the fall that the prime minister has to deal with, because he sidestepped some stuff here that's real. The military, the we controversy. There's been some real stuff, and his poll numbers are still good. So I think he's in a good spot. I think he's in a really good spot. It's very difficult for a politician to have some of the things go wrong that he has and still have good poll numbers like that. It's because he's taking care of people in different ways. And quite frankly, the conservatives at times are hurting themselves.
You mentioned about climate change. I mentioned to you before this started that I was talking to Andrea Horvath yesterday, and one of the main things we talked about was the Ontario NDP's Green New Democratic Deal. So, do you think people will be interested? Like you mentioned, people under 30. You've seen a poll that said that the environment was the most important issue to a large majority of those people. But do you think that people will vote for a plan like the Green New Democratic Deal? And do you think if, let's say, Justin Trudeau released a plan, maybe not to the extent of the Ontario NDP, but on the federal level, do you think that would benefit him as well?
I don't. I think federally, I think the prime minister has that issue locked down. I don't think he has to worry about that. It's funny today. The Conservatives announced more green space throughout Ontario. For every land deal they give out, they're going to add more acres in green space. It will be an issue in this provincial election. I don't know if it's going to be the issue. For some reason, to me, I always find the environment is a federal issue. Not that we don't care about it provincially, but it's different in every province. And I just don't find like in Ontario, it's that hot button. I think Andrea Horvath, who you just spoke to, has a real opportunity here. This is, she's running again to be premier of the province. You can argue it's on a table, it's on a platter for her if she wants it. It's a big opportunity. She's gonna have to find the other issues. And there's the major ones are obviously how the pandemic was handled, obviously the willingness to trust science. If she or the Liberals do not make long-term care homes a huge issue in this election, they've made a huge mistake, a massive mistake. So there's ways she can go. I don't think you, and I'm not saying she is. This is just part of her platform, but I don't think you make the environment a major issue in this province and expect that to get points in the polls. I think Ontario residents are in a different spot. So it's good to hear, but I don't know where the environment really is going to be come that election. I'm just not convinced.
One of the things in the 2018 election is Kathleen Wynne would often compare Premier Doug Ford to, at the time, President Donald Trump, who was the president in the United States. Do you think that will be an issue again for Doug Ford in this election?
I don't think so, because I think when Trump's in office, it's a good attack on any political conservative opponent. Now that he's gone, for now. Now that he's gone for now, it's you and I both laugh. I think it's a little different. I think the way you go after the conservative government currently is very, very simple. And where the Liberals and Stephen Del Duca and maybe Andrea Horvath could mess this up is if they start to overthink things. To me, this is not an overthink election. In Ontario, in Alberta, maybe in Manitoba, where their Premier Pallister is not very popular right now. This is a straightforward political play. So making Trump comparisons now when he's gone, I don't think that has the same effect as it used to. It was a smart attack previously, I don't think it's there now.
Okay, and so vaccines are coming out. Many people having received at least one dose, and I believe I seen it was 18% of Ontarians have received both doses. So, do you think Ontarians will fully be vaccinated by the end of the summer? And then looking on it on kind of a bigger scale, do you think that Justin Trudeau, once all Canadians are vaccinated, do you think that will be kind of his what he's looking for in order to get to an election?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but you can't preach the safety he's preached, and then because it's convenient for you, say we're going to the polls. Let's go. Everyone bunch together as close as you can in middle schools across Canada for my benefit. He can't do that. So yeah, he's waiting. He might not have to wait to the fall the way the vaccination program's going, if I'm being honest. Because Ontario yesterday vaccinated 200,000 people. That's crazy. So I think hands down, Ontario will be vaccinated, fully vaccinated by the end of the summer. I don't think that's a question. So, Doug Ford will have a few good moments here. He'll be able to plant his flag in the ground and have the George W. Bush mission accomplished moment on the aircraft carrier. I don't know if you remember the mission accomplished in Iraq when it wasn't accomplished. But I think Doug Ford politically over the next little while, vaccines stay the course, and he actually stops talking as much as he has. I'm a little angered at his lack of visibility as the premier of the province lately, but as a political tool, I think it's smart to just lay low for a while. I don't like how Christine Elliott's had to carry the weight. That's really tough on Christine Elliott, who, by the way, I could one day also see running this province. I think she's been caught in some crossfire here from bad leadership around her. But I digress. Yes, I think Ontario will be vaccinated by the end of the summer, and there's no way we're going to the polls in this country federally before we reach certain thresholds. And I know Dr. Theresa Tam's been a little loose with what the guidance is, but look out for October. An October election makes sense to me.
Okay, but obviously there's a lot of difference between last fall and this fall, because last fall no one was vaccinated hardly. But do you think there's any possibility that the election could be pushed back into the year after, into 2022?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like this is look, he's the prime minister. He can do a lot of things right now. So yeah, it could. Listen, if there's another thing that takes place, yeah, you could push it back. He does enjoy some NDP support at times. When Jagmeet Singh is not torching his party, at times there is NDP support in the House of Commons, so he can get a few things done, maybe. But I think he really, really wants that majority, and I think he thinks he can get it. And based on some of the arguments I'm seeing from Aaron O'Toole's party, not necessarily from Aaron O'Toole himself, because I think he knows what needs to happen. Conservatives have to think this different. They need to be more of a factor in Ontario, and he's trying to be. But there are old school factions in his party that are just not going to allow it. So I don't know how that marriage is going to go, and I kind of feel, because I thought Andrew Scheer was just an idiot. Aaron O'Toole is not dumb. He's a smart dude who served in our military and kind of knows what he's talking about. But his party is still very stationary on certain very important issues. And I just don't think it's going to stop Prime Minister Trudeau from getting that majority. I think he'll get it. So like you're 12 years old, you're in this position, you're talking to important people. You're talking to people that matter, not me, but you're talking to important people that matter. You're in a suit. You have a picture of, is that Joe Biden over your left shoulder? Who is that?
Yeah, that's a Joe Biden, and then that one right there is a letter from Doug Ford.
You had a letter from Doug Ford.
I also interviewed Doug Ford a little while ago.
Okay, so you're one of the few.
Yeah.
Well, on the first day of BT, Justin Trudeau and Doug Ford said hello to me. So. Oh,
really? That's cool.
Yeah, you're not the only one. But how do you you must be getting a ton of experience here. Like so what do you want to So what do you want to do with this experience? Because you're getting reps that even adults sometimes don't get in broadcasting. So where do you see yourself? Like, where's 22, 32-year-old Wyatt? Like, what do you want to do? Do you want to go into politics? Do you want to go into broadcasting? Like, what's the deal?
I think I think starting my own show would be a cool thing, whether it's like actually on TV or whether it's a successful online show. I think that'd be kind of cool, or maybe eventually getting involved in politics or some sort of lawyer. I think would all be cool jobs.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I think you can do whatever you want to do at this point. You're doing pretty well.
Thanks.
All right. I don't want to flip this around. This is your interview. Any last questions?
No.